Thank you very much. And now, finally, get to the man of the hour. Always the straw that stirs the drink here.
Thank you.
Henry, I've actually, I deliberately avoided looking at most of the choices out there, so I actually have no idea what you're about to say.
Nice.
I don't either. I'm gonna wing it.
Oh no.
No, I do know my choices. I think I should start with the one that kind of can piggyback off of some of y'all's at this point, because the other two are gonna go far afield. Um, but Superfly, I first saw it in 1992. Of course, I heard about it growing up. I saw the, commercials. And Richard, you were talking about being kind of aware in 1965. Uh, when I was 3 years old, I don't think I was as aware of that, except with comic books. I was aware of them from practically the time I was born. Um, but movies, not as much. But, as I'm getting towards 7, 8, 9, 10, a lot of classic stuff came out. But my parents had no money. We didn't go to the theater as a regular thing. We were TV junkies. And back then, you could watch nearly unedited prints of a lot of these movies, albeit pan and scan, on TV. So that's really where I saw all of the movies that were classic at the time. Uh, but there were ones that fell between the cracks that I was intrigued by, that were a little darker, a little more adult, crime, action kind of movies. Like, I wanted to see Serpico, for instance. I really wanted to see Serpico, and I just didn't get a chance to see it until the 1990s. I finally rented it. But I was aware of the actors. As far as blaxploitation, my aunt, who was a racist, had a huge crush on Richard Roundtree, and there was a Shaft TV series. I don't know if y'all ever saw it. It lasted
Yeah.
about less than 20 episodes, and I did see an episode when my hippie uh, babysitter Bonnie, we had kind of like a blaxploitation night. It didn't mean to be. Well, I didn't intend it. Maybe it's just trying to give me some culture. She was white, but definitely a hippie, and she bought me an issue of Luke Cage, and
Nice.
it's the issue with Cottonmouth.
Oh
A
boy.
lot of the ones in that very issue, and shots ended up in the TV show, and she showed me the Shaft TV series. So she didn't have to convince me. I was an anti-racist almost from the beginning, because my mom told me, "Do not do this. Do not be a racist
Mhm.
like your father and my family." Um, Superfly was kind of on the periphery of my knowledge. I thought it was a superhero movie for a long time. I didn't know what he was. I thought he was, as many people still do. I thought Superfly was the name of the character, which it's never been.
Okay.
Um, but I like in 1992, I rented it. It was one of the first things I rented when I could rent movies regularly, and I rented it with a friend of mine. We were mainly doing horror, but he was interested in blaxploitation, and I said, let's start at the top. I'd seen Shaft on TV, the movie. Um, to me, Shaft is like junk food. It's pretty tasty but forgettable. Whereas I think well, you remember Roundtree, the iconic part, but that's about it. But ironically, his son, the director, was black, and his son, Gordon Parks Jr., directed Superfly. And it was the opposite of Shaft. It was not co-opted by the studios going in. It was a totally independent production originally. And this guy named Sig Shore shelled out money. They filmed it in the cold of winter. There's scenes where you can tell they're breathing cold. They had to do one takes almost every time. They had to shoot on location. Um, it was chaotic, but Gordon Parks Jr., he had a great eye, because he, like his father, was a born photographer. And some people say he would have ended up becoming a greater director or photographer than his dad. But unfortunately, he died just a few years after Superfly. And I want to say a helicopter crash. I could be wrong, though. Some kind of horrible accident. But he gave this movie his all. It's not the only movie he directed, but it's the first one he directed, and it's the best. And basically Superfly is, popularized the iconic image of the drug pusher as the anti-hero, as that is his way out of the ghetto. And so when we start out, he's already got an empire of cocaine dealing, and he's got a white girlfriend, and they do comment on that's a deliberate choice of his culturally, because you know and just stereotypes, but cliches often begin with reality. And but he also has a black girlfriend that he deeply loves. um and he does a lot of coke. And his best friend Eddie, played by Carl Lee, is just a magnificent actor who really didn't appear in much. He was in The Connection by Shirley Clark. He was good in that. That was several years earlier. um Eddie is kind of like the character's name is Youngblood Priest, and I thought it was a nickname for a long time. I think it's not his his birth name, but I think he took the name Youngblood, one word, Priest, last name, as his name, like a stage name, whatever, at a young age. So that's really his name. So so when people call him Youngblood, it's not a nickname; they're addressing him by his first name. Um,
Mhm.
so Youngblood is tough with his dealers. He wants to stay on top, but he wants to get out. And that was a common theme, in a lot of uh, blaxploitation movies, a lot of crime movies, a lot of blaxploitation books like Clarence Cooper and Donald Goines and that kind of stuff in that period, Iceberg Slim. And it starts out kind of an action movie, and there's little funny bits because they dress really loud and they have a real loud lifestyle, which would seem tame and poor compared to the opulent lifestyles you see on camera now of people, or the opulent lifestyles of actors behind the camera that you see. But as Eddie puts it, he goes, "Why you want to get out, man? 8-track stereo, color TV in every room, and more blow than you can snort in a day. Come on, nigga, that's the American dream." And you know, uh, he really can't say much to that, but he still wants to get out. And so he has a plan, and involves approaching his mentor Scatter. And there's Ron O'Neal, who plays the main part. He's a light-skinned black guy, and he's a very handsome guy. And his clothes are just totally iconic in this movie. But he goes from being this kind of tough guy to, you start to see different sides of him, and that he actually does care about people that he trusts, the few he trusts. And he really feels like he just wants to get $1 million, split it with Eddie, $500,000, take his black girlfriend to Europe. Now nowadays you wouldn't last very long with that. But you might do okay for a few months. But this was 1971 it was shot, and came out in 72. So some of the dialogues ad lib. There's a lot of ghetto slang that a lot of people weren't familiar with at the time. It's a naturalistic movie because that's who these people are. Philip Fenty, the screenwriter, was also black. But Sig Shore, the producer, was a white guy who was just getting into producing to make a buck. But he did stick with the production until the very end. And he even played the corrupt white mayor. I'm sorry, not mayor, police commissioner. And when the dominoes stop tumbling, of course, Eddie decides, I'm going to sell out, because I'm not going to go with my boy Priest. And he sells out to, well, the cops and informants, gets one of their buddies killed. Freddie's dead, which gave birth to an incredible single by Curtis Mayfield. I'll get to him in a minute. But Eddie basically sells out, and, he's like, I got what I want. And as for killing me, what I got now, they can kill me, but I'm gonna die a rich black prince. And so Priest is not happy with this development, but Priest does figure out that he goes all the way to the top. So the police commissioner Reardon, played by the producer, is his boss, is the boss that was going to deal them the keys to finish getting out, the ones that his mentor gave him some. And then Eddie kind of stabbing him in the back. But they still managed to trick them and get away with a lot of money. And him and George are split. And really, it becomes by the end, it really becomes an existential film. It has action at the very end where he confronts Reardon and his thugs. But there's a lot of stretch where there's more in like the third act where he's soul searching. There's a great scene where he's on the bridge with Georgia, his girlfriend, and she says, "What do you want to do? What do you want to be?" And he goes, "I all I know is I can't be what I am now. I want a life that's not all fucked up with things we have to have. I just want to be free." And that's a theme that's near and dear to my heart. That's an important thing in my personal ideology is freedom. And I definitely empathize with people who have not had freedom in our country, and end up feeling like they're forced to do things like push drugs or pimp or whatever. Um, so I really relate to that character a lot. I thought he's never killed anybody. People think he's a badass, but he's actually never actually killed anybody. He's beat the fuck out of them, but he has kind of a code of the streets. So anyway, uh, so yeah, depending on how you look at it, the ending's happy. All the corruption is exposed, and that's really the fun part of it, that he gets to walk away. And the Greek chorus to the movie is Curtis Mayfield's soundtrack. That was what they paid the most for the movie, was to get Curtis Mayfield, who was obviously on top of his game on the charts at the time. Albums like Roots and Curtis, I mean, incredible albums, and post impressions albums. And his songs talk about the characters in the story, and they talk about the ambiguities of, like, what are you doing? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? People die because of this. You don't want to end up like Freddie. And it's beautiful music anyway. So I really think it's one of the most, well, in my personal opinion, this is just personal opinion. I think it's the hippest blaxploitation movie ever made, because I think it definitely exploits black content and actors for an audience, but I think it has a serious theme that's actually dead serious, but it has enough action and funky things to kind of hook in white people, and it made a fortune, and that Warner Brothers distributed it. They picked it up really quick, and it made a lot more money. So I've always wanted to talk about it. I've never covered it on this channel. I come to it again and again, and it's just, ever since that first time, I was just like, I can just put on Superfly, and yeah, I know what they're going to say. I know, there's going to be some crazy little turn of phrase that's going to amuse me, some great piece of music, or just Youngblood Priest just being intense, and I love it. So that's my first pick.
Cool. Unexpected pick. Okay, so I will go to my second one, and this is, to me, the greatest parody that's ever been done, partly because, and probably Young Frankenstein would be a close second. In both cases, the trick is you make it with love. If you love something, when you parody it, it's with love. It's like a roast. When you're roasting a good friend, everyone, you singe, not burn. And the truth behind it. And it's Galaxy Quest. I love Galaxy Quest. I think arguably movie. Galaxy Quest is I think it's almost a perfect movie. I'm trying to think, what would I do if I could change it? And I don't think I'd change a thing.
Nothing.
No, it pays its arc off.
Oh, absolutely. And this is again why people are like, oh, I wish there had been a sequel. I don't. No. It told the story.
No,
that
it's perfect as it is.
Yeah.
It's brilliantly cast. So if you don't know Galaxy Quest, oh, for God's sakes, go watch it. It's the whole conceit is that the gang, the actors from Star Trek, who have been basically just coasting on the fame from this little niche crowd of people who are just absolutely crazy about it. It's not Star Trek, it's Galaxy Quest. It's the exact same.
Star Trek, yeah.
And they go to conventions and they sell their stuff, and some of them have just sort of like, yeah, this is life, this is what happens. Some of them are taking it a little hard. the absolutely brilliant Alan Rickman. Is there a greater loss to cinema that he died so young?
Yeah.
Plays Mr. Spock. I mean, whatever. And he hates this role. He was an actor, damn it. He did Shakespeare, 2 standing ovations. He's so.
That's kind of self-parody.
It's so committed to the craft. He's so committed to the craft. He still wears that stupid headpiece, even when he doesn't have to. Even when he's ironing his shirts, he's got the headpiece on. And talk about quotable. This movie, every line is great, and it's hard to. I did a panel on this, and we were like, "What's your favorite line?" And all of us had different lines, and we all agreed everyone was right. Mine's got to be by Grepthar's hammer. What a savings! Because Rickman is so good when he delivers it. You just feel the self-loathing that he has. That this is what he's been reduced to. But by God, he's an actor. He's committed to the craft. The show must go on, and he's going to do this, but he hates every moment of it. And it turns out that these aliens on another planet have found these transmissions going through space, because it is true that the stuff that we have made is being broadcast out there, and aliens, if there are any, are watching it, which to me solves the Fermi paradox right then and there. But they see this and they thought it was real. They thought they were watching, news shows, documentaries. and so when they are threatened by an absolutely wonderful villain, just a wonderful piece of makeup effects, they call on these actors to come and save their bacon. So the casting is great. There's an oral history about this that Rolling Stone had, or MTV. No, MTV did it. You can look it up online. Just look up oral history of Galaxy Quest, where they interview the survivors, the surviving cast and crew. And it's one of those things when you read it, you realize it is a miracle when a good movie gets made. Because everything that's good about this film just sort of accidentally happened. It was supposed to be Alec Baldwin. He would have been okay. They didn't want Sigourney Weaver because they didn't want anyone who had been in science fiction movies. It was originally going to be directed by Harold Ramis. He left about the time Tim Allen came on. A lot of people don't like Tim Allen.
He's great at this.
Tim Allen is perfect in this.
Yes.
Could not have been better. The only thing they could have done that would have been good, but not as good as this, is if they actually got the cast of Star Trek to parody themselves. But that probably wasn't going to happen. But I could see Shatner pulling this off.
For the same reason that Alan Rickman does.
Yeah. Although as Tim points out, he wasn't really doing Shatner.
No.
Parody. If anything, the one that stands out, I saw an interview where he talked about this, and I can't unsee it. Whenever he's sitting in his chair, he's doing Yul Brynner from the 10 Commandments. I'm like, what? And then I watch it, I'm like, yeah. And 10 Commandments actually could have been another comfort movie of mine. I can start watching that at any moment in it. Galaxy Quest is just so good. The parody works. Hey, Justin.
Hey.
You're next, sir. The parody of Galaxy Quest works as a parody, but it's gentle. The actors, the characters embrace it. They're not winking at the audience. I despise parody films that basically go in with the attitude, we know that this sucks, but we're cool. We also know it sucks. Isn't this stupid? Can you believe there are idiots who watch this? It's like, yeah, me watching. Thank you. You're insulting me right now. No, they embrace it, and it's beautiful. It also, I think, I love the portrayal of the humans, the kids back on Earth who end up saving the ship and everything, because again, this is something that often slips into Big Bang Theory territory. It's a neat balancing act to mock fan culture without being cruel, because we are easily mockable. I love my peeps. I love them. I really, really, really do. But if the shit hits the fan and the EMP wipes out electricity, except for maybe the one guy who's really off the deep end and has been collecting swords, these would be the most useless people on the face of the earth. maybe the Society for Creative Anachronism, but no, my goal is to find a bunch of rednecks or Amish would be nice, and they'd probably have to take me in. I don't know. My daughter has a lot of context with some of the Inuit in Canada, and I'm gonna go, offer my services.
You could find
as
some. You could find some
indentured
Inuit
servant.
Amish rednecks.
Man, if that exists, that they will inherit the earth. Whatever happens, they got it all covered.
Don't make peace with the cockroaches.
Might I suggest part of the reason why Galaxy Quest is one of the perfect parodies is the fact that they're not copying the characters. They're copying the ideas.
Yeah.
They're copying the tone.
Just
they're copying the archetypes. And that's why, like when we say Tim Allen's not doing Shatner, he's doing essentially people's encounters with Shatner.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like, it's not really Shatner. It's more of an image.
Right.
Of it. And then he punches through that and gives us something that's wholly original to him. And that's who this guy is when he's alone, when he's in his apartment by himself. We get when he's, on the toilet. I mean, with those things where you break through. I mean, it's not that he's not even in character. He doesn't even have the facade of being the celebrity at those moments,
right.
And that's, I think, that is the brilliance of the parody, is that that gets missed a lot of times. It's like you go from Superman and Superman. Well, okay, there's parodies there, but would it be funnier if he wasn't Superman but was essentially Superman but dumb? But not so on the nose. And so I think that's what I think that's interesting, because it's like, by Grabthar's hammer and all that, it's actually more Klingon than Vulcan. But yet we get the parallel here that they're really doing Spock, but it's not Spock, but there's, that's, to me, that's what makes this parody work so well, because it works both as a parody and on its own straight-faced. You don't even have to know Star Trek to enjoy Galaxy Quest.
Well, they were very careful. They were very afraid, when you read these accounts, of getting sued. And it's like, is our captain's chair too close to the actual captain's chair? Like I said, this is brilliantly cast. I wouldn't change a thing, but two stand out. One is Tony Shalhoub, because I'm trying to think, has there ever been a movie that was not made better by the fact that it had Tony Shalhoub in it? Every movie he's in hasn't been great, but he's always been great in them. There's some actors that are like that. They don't have an off day. They're just good. They're usually better than the material. And then MVP's got to go to one of my favorite actors, Sam Rockwell, who his character is absolutely my favorite, because he plays a red shirt who's the only one aware that he's a red shirt and is constantly afraid that he's going to be killed. And he has like a couple of the best lines, like, "Did you even watch the show? That's great."
Yes.
Oh yeah. That's my quota. My quotable one is about air.
Yeah.
Is there air? You don't know. I don't care. Our whole family just blurts out, "You don't know." All the time.
I don't know.
And we all know what we're referencing.
And my favorite line from Sigourney, well, there's a few, but the chompers are great. But my favorite line from Sigourney is where they're like in some danger, and it's like, "Let's get out of here before one of those things kills Guy." It's like, even she recognizes that if anyone is going to die, it's Sam Rockwell.
Yeah,
it's a brilliant line, perfectly delivered.
It is super well written, well made. Everything about it is good. And again, if whatever reason I come in there and people are already watching, it's halfway through, my brain has already filled in that half. I can just sit down and start watching. I'm not gonna, don't rewind it. No. Like, I know what happened. I know how we got here. Trust me.
Can I tell you my favorite bit of trivia about Galaxy Quest? In case somebody doesn't know this, but it was originally going to be an R-rated movie. So they had a bit of profanity in this movie that got edited out. There's a few little squeakers that come through, enough to keep that PG-13. But yeah, that sequence when the completely meaningless pounding
the choppers,
or just pop like that, and Sigourney Weaver's character jumps back with "Screw that." Well, if you watch her lips, she's not saying "screw."
Yeah,
because her teeth and lip can come together into a
I thought
it's very clear.
I honestly thought that was deliberate, because when I saw that in the theater, everyone burst out in laughter, knowing what had happened, and we just figured, oh, that's cute. But no, you're right.
No, that was part of their decision after test audiences and stuff, that this was playing more as a family film. I mean, it would have, the original cut on this would have been a little meaner, and it was going to be a little darker and all of that. And they, on the editing side, pulled it back smartly and made it PG-13 and softened the blows a bit and turned it into the masterpiece really that it is.
It was marketed poorly. Even the studio admits that. I think probably in the end barely broke even. Certainly not enough to continue, although after a while it became a cult favorite and everybody realized that. And then by the time they were ready to maybe do a sequel, unnecessary sequel, Alan Rickman, shocked everyone by passing away. So, and I cannot, I keep hearing about they're going to do this. They're going to remake it. They're going to reboot it.
No,
really,
like,
they say that about everything.
Because again, I love story. I love story.
Of course.
This is a great story. It has a wonderful arc. Every character is given an arc. It's great. Even the background characters are given arcs. It's so seldom that you see that. It's terrific. But but then it's like Ghostbusters 2. Okay, what's the story now? And it's like, well, we can either do more of the same, in which case already seen it, or we have to go in some crazy other direction, and then that's not really what we want. I don't. I hate to say that because I really love these characters and everything, but I really love the fact that I'm happy where they ended up.
Yeah.
It's a happy ending. I don't need to see. And now part 2, where Alien 3, I'm looking right the hell at you.
I can tolerate Alien 3. I don't mind it that much, but I categorize all 4 of the first movies in kind of different, discrete ways, because to me they're like 4 different subgenres of science fiction almost. And but the first is my best.
Look, I realize all true stories end in death, but that being said, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm going to spend 2 hours watching Sigourney Weaver save Newt, you do not start the next movie with, oh yeah, Newt, yeah, she's dead. Yeah, it was quick. Fuck you. Oh, I hate you. I hate you.
A little smoother than that.
I hate you, movie. You better be really, really good if you're going to bring me back. There better not be any cheap CGI.
I saw all 4 of them in the hospital.
Well,
cable. So I got to see the whole thing again, and 3. I mean, Joss Whedon, he's just not the writer for that material. In my opinion,
no, that was Dave Fincher.
Fincher directed it. Joss Whedon did most of the original script.
Did he really? I know he did.
I didn't know that.
That was Whedon's big break out of television, was doing that movie. But
one more reason to hate him.
Well, he also did a script pass on X-Men, and I'll never forget what he said. Yeah, I went to see X-Men. Man, it really sucked. My material was 100 times better. I'm just like, get out of my face, dude.
The one line from X-Men that screams Joss Whedon was the whole thing about what does a frog do when he gets hit by a bolt of lightning? It's like, okay, Xander,
that might have been him.
Keep on moving.
Anyway, sorry, Bill. I didn't mean to.
No, that's fine. That's all I have to say about that. And I think we need to jump to Justin.
Yeah.
Glad to see you, man.
Hey, Justin. Good to see you, mate.
Yeah. So I'm just talking about what films I keep going. G'day, mate. Films I keep going back to. I thought one that I would mention. Most people have probably seen this one. Is the first Steven Spielberg film called DUEL, DUEL, and it's about Dennis Weaver's character driving to a conference from LA, I think in Las Vegas, and he starts off in the morning but gets stuck behind this old weathered, beaten up petrol tanker truck, and it's going slow. He's worried he's going to miss or overtake the truck, but once he overtakes the truck, eventually it then speeds up and overtakes him, and then, as you know, if you've seen the film, it becomes a duel of sorts in terms of he's been stalked by this monster truck, this old petrol tanker, and Yeah, it's really quite good. It works in a lot of ways on a suspense level, because you never actually see the psycho truck driver beyond seeing his boots. He's got these cowboy boots. So towards the start, after the first encounter, Dennis Weaver pulls into a gas station and he's just flustered trying to get his breath after what's just happened. And of course, the petrol tanker, the truck pulls in behind him or somewhere else on the forecourt. And he looks over and all he can see is the shoes kicking the tires on the other side of the truck. So that's almost the closest you get to actually seeing the truck driver during the film. And there's another really good scene sort of halfway through where he gets walks into a nearby diner, and he's sitting there having a glass of water trying to get his breath, and he looks out the window and sees that the truck's parked outside as well. So then he immediately realizes the driver's likely inside the diner. But when he looks at the bar and the guy's playing pool, everyone's got the same shoes, the same cowboy type boots. So he's thinking it could be any of these guys, you know. Any of these guys could be the crazy truck driver. So stupidly and foolishly, he's this honky tonk looking guy who's playing pool and gets beaten up in the diner. And then he leaves the diner and continues on his way. But I won't give too much away about the ending, but it's a good ending. But yet at no stage do you actually see the face of the truck driver. And then I found out later it was actually directed by Steven Spielberg, so it must have been his first film.
It was a TV movie.
Yeah.
You probably caught it repackaged for international distribution in the theater, which they did.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I think.
Yeah, I first saw it, I think, in the late 1990s, but the film itself is, I think, 1973 or 72, 73, something like that.
I'm going to make myself sound old, but I saw it first run. I was very young, but I saw it first run.
Mm-hmm.
That and Gargoyles, which we'll cover one day, I hope.
So I think Dennis Weaver does quite a good job as sort of the businessman who's completely strung out and stressed. He comes out with some good one-liners in terms of frustration at the truck driver when he can't get past it. Sequence when near the start where the truck driver, you see his hand come out the window and he waves Dennis Weaver past as if to say, "You can overtake me now." And of course, when he pulls out to overtake, there's something coming the other way. So that's when he first realizes he's dealing with a bit of a psycho in terms of the truck driver. But yeah, it's a film I haven't seen it for a long time, but it was a film I often go back to. And if it was on TV, I'd probably still watch it, you know, if it was a rerun on TV. Yeah, so, but I've probably seen it. Do you want me to talk about another one or just the one film?
You can talk about two. We're going to go a round table. So if you're still with us, the second round, you can talk about another one for sure. But
yeah, okay.
Bill's doing the hosting.
Oh,
yeah. I'm going to see. I think next weekend at the Astor, you know, that Art Deco cinema I always go to, Henry, and they're doing a double feature of Alien and Aliens. So the first two.
Aliens is being re-released nationwide next Friday, but I don't think I'm going to be able to go.
Alien and Alien. See, that's where it should have ended right there.
Yeah.
Perfect.